I'm Anthony.
And I'm Eric.
And we're back with the 78th episode of LA Rams Central. It is 78, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Well, first of all, there's just so much wonderfulness going around this week that I can barely contain myself. So, I figure we'll start off with something irritating, and then we'll end up with something fantastic. So, let's start, Eric. We're only going to really cover two games, the two marquee games in anyone's opinion this week, with the Patriots, Steelers, and the Rams and Seahawks. Those were kind of the two really big games. And then we'll cover a couple of things that I'm going to kind of lead into, and I'll take the lead on those. So, Eric, Steelers, Patriots, I'm not going to lie, I didn't watch a lick of this game. I had no desire to. I think that matchup is boring and predictable, and although the outcome was predictable, I guess the way they got there was not so predictable. So take it away.
Well, of course you didn't watch it. It wouldn't be football if you did watch it. Well, let's start out with this. Pittsburgh came to play. Okay, I thought at the beginning that the Patriots were going to come out, push them around a little bit, but Pittsburgh did really well at home. Okay, everybody already knows what happened. It's a big story that what happened at the end of the game, but a lot of this game was predicated on Ben Roethlisberger handing the ball off and throwing screen passes to Le'Veon Bell, and he was trying to get Antonio Brown involved in the game as well. Well, Antonio Brown personally tore his calf muscle on a throw into the end zone and never came back. So he's not expected back into the playoffs. Possibly week 17, but if they can beat the Texans, they're not gonna lay down to the Browns, and then if they can keep those two wins, they're gonna have a bye week, and the Steelers are going to be able to wait about 3-4 weeks before they play again, which could help them. So that was a big loss during the game. The Patriots, on the other hand, they couldn't run. Gronk had 30 yards receiving in the first half alone. And nobody else was coming to play. Now, if you want to blame it on the weather, fine, great. It was raining 75% of the game, but, football's played at the offense. That's what makes the sport so great. Second half. Brady and Gronk go off. Gronk has for the game, he's got over 160 yards receiving. The Patriots come back, finally get some touchdowns. Pittsburgh scores to take the lead at late in the fourth quarter. New England goes 2 or 3 plays, scores a touchdown. And you're like, okay, well, the Steelers have a long way to go. Here's where it shoots. A pass to Smith-Schuster, who takes the ball, 65, 70 yards to down to the 5-yard line-ish.
Yep.
And then the clock's running. Ben has 3 options. Spike the ball, run it with Le'Veon, or throw the ball. He fake spiked, or what was deemed a fake spike, because the only people who've really done the fake spike really well, Dan Marino. And Manning pulled it off once, Peyton at least. But Ben threw about a yard and a half in front of the goal line to Jesse James, who caught the ball, turned around while falling down, crossed the goal line, apparently bobbled it, scored a touchdown. Refs got together. Tony Corrente was the ref. Ruled the pass incomplete after a few minutes, saying that Jesse James did not have control of the ball. Guys, I was up in arms. I'm like, how is that not a touchdown? The Steelers are getting screwed. come to find out that the rule is correct, and it's a dumb rule. Now, I'm sorry. Correct me if I'm wrong. Okay, so Jesse James may or may not think that we have made a football move. And I say that because it's not like he took a step or two. It's he caught the ball and was falling down and diving toward the goal line at the same time. He really didn't have a step or two. But when the ball moves a centimeter in his hands and the ball's over the goal line, that's a touchdown. So now the Steelers find out that they didn't score the touchdown. What Ben Roethlisberger does is throws a pass over the middle, and it gets picked off in the end zone. Patriots win.
That was the fake spike. So
that was a fake spike, yeah.
Let me read to you the rule prior to the Burt Emanuel rule, which is the rule that we are all dealing with right now because the Buccaneers are a bunch of crybabies and wanted to change a rule that was clear and concise and understood by everyone for decades and never deemed unfair until the crybaby Buccaneers didn't win their Super Bowl in '99, and they wouldn't have anyway. They weren't going to beat the Rams, I'm sorry. They weren't going to score a touchdown on that drive, and the final score was 11-6. So it wouldn't have mattered, but I digress. Here's the rule. Possession followed by a football move. A football move is identified as a lunge or 2 steps forward. If it is a diving catch, at no point can the ball hit the ground. Now, if you follow that rule, which was the pre-Burt Emanuel rule crap that we're dealing with, Pittsburgh wins. Dez Bryant has a catch against the Green Bay Packers in the playoffs. Megatron scores a touchdown against the Chicago Bears, and all the confusion is gone. All of it. Am I wrong?
You're not wrong.
Okay. So the fact that they don't want to fix this, because if they fix it, then it's an acknowledgement to the fans that they were wrong and the fans were right. And Roger Goodell doesn't do that. He is an overblown blowhard that the players can't stand. Some of the owners are starting to figure out they don't like him, and the fans have never liked. And at some point, they're going to come up with another rule where you can't hit a wide receiver from anywhere at the top, the crown of his head, to the bottom of his feet, under any capacity. But yet, you're going to be required to tackle. That's the next rule change that will eventually come down the pike. And while they're at it, they'll probably confuse on what a forward pass is. Oh, wait, no. They already did that when they screwed the Raiders and gave the Cheatriots their first Super Bowl run. I don't know why they won't fix this rule. And I don't know why they won't fix it with the old rule, which was clear and easily understood and interpreted by everybody. The only part that brought confusion was the football move, which they later changed to a lunge or 2 steps. That was in 1984. So, Eric, I feel your pain. This is one of those things as a coach. I would fire anybody in the booth that told me to challenge a catch under today's rule, because you have no way of knowing if this crew is going to see it the way you see it. Because this crew ruled this an incomplete. The next one may rule it a touchdown. We have no idea. We have no idea. What I do know is, looking at the replay, is there wasn't enough evidence to overturn the call. Because we don't know if his fingers were underneath it or not. Yet, they overturned the call.
Okay. I get all this. I get it. Part of it is ridiculous. Part of me then says, for getting into the end zone, here's what needs to happen. No more of this diving over the pylon crap, possibly losing the ball. None of this jumping over the pile to goal line and not getting over the goal line, but the ball gets over the goal line. Because if a running back jumps over the pile, causes the play on the goal line and he gets the ball swept away, that should be a fumble.
Well, I agree, but they would never. Yeah, I mean, look, the
Okay.
solution
So
isn't to make everything
my
as.
My thing is, you need 2 feet down in the end zone at any time. You can jump over the pile, secure the ball, put your 2 feet on the ground. Guess what? That's a touchdown. You can make a catch in the end zone. Obviously, in NFL, if you catch the ball in the end zone, whether it's the back line or the corner, you need 2 feet down. At any point in time, you need 2 feet down. None of this diving over the pile on crap. Because then if you lose the ball, then you're subjected to, oh, well, he didn't have control of the ball going over the pylon, so just like in the Raider Cowboy game, and Derek Carr lost the ball before the pylon, but again, he fumbled it into the end zone, went out of bounds, Cowboys ball, game over.
The solution is not to make the new rule as convoluted as the current rule. The solution is you simply do what I just said. The ball breaks the plane, it's a touchdown. Eric, you didn't hear Ram fans complain when Todd Gurley got the ball knocked out of his hand going into the end zone against Seattle, and we ended up losing the game because of that, right? That was a touchback. Seattle got the ball, and we lost by 6. If we kicked the field goal there, okay, let's say that they put the ball back under the new rule and the Rams keep possession, they got a field goal on that drive. Well, guess what? Cooper Kupp doesn't have to make a touchdown catch in the end zone. We could trot the field goal team out there and go into overtime, right? But the rule is the rule. And I'm sorry, but we today don't get to benefit differently or get a different set of rules because we think it's unfair when people for over 100 years playing this game have played under this rule and had no issue with it. Here's an idea. Don't fumble the damn ball through the end zone, Todd Gurley, Derek Carr, or anybody else, New York Jets. Just, right, hold the ball through it. If you're going to extend the ball, then you understand the risk. It's that simple. The solution isn't to punish the defense because you know what? In most cases, not the Derek Carr case, it's a hell of a play by Earl Thomas to cause that fumble. So the situation is you're going to punish the defenders yet again. They're punished on everything they do. Oh, you tackle too well, we have to change the rule. Oh, you hit too hard, we have to change the rule. Oh, you cover too well, we have to change the rule. Oh, you stop the run so well, we have to change the rule. At what point do you stop giving the defense a disadvantage? This is the last advantage they have in football. They're told,
defense is no longer permitted on the field.
Right, exactly. Their job is to defend the goal line under any means necessary. And if you're dumb enough to fumble the ball through the end zone, that's your problem. Okay? If a defensive play like Earl Thomas makes a hell of a play and knocks the ball out, tip your hat, come back and get it again next time. Because there's still time to play. And if you're Derek Carr, you have to understand the circumstance there. Guess what? I have no issue with it. I can't stand this. We need to change the rule all of a sudden. Knee-jerk reaction bullcrap. It's what we did with the catch rule. And we didn't make it better. We made it infinitely worse. So everyone just cool their jets, respect the games past, and understand the rules. And know what the consequences are for your actions. That's the solution. Because again, no Ram fan sat there and cried about the ball going out of the end zone and no one else had possession, but we were the last team to possess it. I heard no Ram fans complain about that rule. And it had a direct effect in costing us a game against Seattle this year. At home. So, cry me a river, Oakland. It happened to you in a game that doesn't matter. It happened to us in a game that does matter. And we still overcame it. Why? Because we're a good football team. Now, let's talk about this Ram game, shall we?
You know what? Actually, before you do that, I'm going to throw you a curveball.
Okay.
I'm gonna run through a couple of things here, and I want to kind of get your insight. And these are going to be really short answer questions.
Okay.
What is the difference of playing New England in Miami and playing Buffalo in Buffalo?
What?
Jay Cutler, 3 turnovers.
Jeez.
Did Cincinnati forget to play in their game against Minnesota?
Yeah, just like they did against Chicago.
I want to let everyone know that finally, in case you didn't know, Teddy Bridgewater finally got in the game.
Mm-hmm.
First pass interception. And you know what? I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
Okay? Bridgewater hasn't played since January of 2016. Now, I've been lobbying for this, and you know I've been talking about this, that Bridgewater has to get in the game, whether the Vikings are winning big or losing big. And he finally got in. There were a couple of passes, kicked the rust off. In case anything happens to Case Keenum, you need Bridgewater to be ready to play. And you know what? Make your case if he was or wasn't, but he finally got in, did what he had to do, and I expect the next time he comes in, if it's this season, he plays a lot better.
He might even play Week 17 if everything's wrapped up for Minnesota. So
you know what, and that would be smart on their part. I mean, they will be playing the Bears at home, so I wouldn't be surprised if they said, "Hey, Bridgewater, play the second half" or something.
Yeah, because they'll at least have the 2 seed wrapped up if they win this week. So
they should, right? The Giants scored 29 points. How many times this season do you think they've scored 29 or more points?
0.
You sir are correct.
Yeah, I know.
Okay. Nick Foles looked really good, guys.
He did.
He looked really good. I don't see Giants defense, okay? When you come off the bench and mainly not miss a beat on offense, you know, Nick Foles did have a good year a couple years ago.
Yeah.
Where he threw, I think, like 27 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. You know, he did a remarkable job, so it was nice to see him get back in there now. Obviously, I'm rooting Philly to lose, so either Minnesota or LA can step in there and you know, get home field for the playoffs. But they're going to be tough. They're going to be tough if you got to go to Philly.
Well,
Blaine Gabbert, good job. You're now benched for Drew Stanton, and I don't think the Cardinals are talking about you being their 2018 quarterback.
Nope, they're not. No, and that was you know, really quick on that, Eric. I want to comment on that. It's tough in this respect. He didn't have the pieces around him, and he didn't have a good team around him to really show what he can and can't do. But he did what he always does, and I think that's going to warrant him getting a release and a adios via con Dios ticket out of Arizona.
Right.
So I was wrong on that one.
No.
No, I was wrong on it.
Oh, you were wrong. Okay. Here's a question for you that I really need some clarity on. Can you just put anybody on injured reserve? Doesn't the guy have to legitimately be injured?
To free up space on the roster, you can. Why?
Okay. So, Aaron Rodgers had his broken collarbone. He was taken off injured reserve to play against the Carolina Panthers. Panthers kind of roughed him up a little bit. Atlanta beat Tampa on Monday night. And the Packers were eliminated from the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
Rodgers was put back on IR. I'm sorry, were you medically cleared to play? Because the last time I checked, you were healthy. Healthy enough to play, that is.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. If I were in the league office, I would be taking a very close eye on this and investigating the situation. Because I know that Rodgers looked so good during pregame warm-ups in Pittsburgh before he was activated. He was throwing the ball 50 yards. You know, Rodgers trying to throw the ball 50 yards against Carolina. He got picked off sometimes.
Yeah. Well, you know, it looks great against air.
Oh, yeah.
Look,
yeah,
we both. I had a phenomenal week this week. I went 13-3. We called the Panther game for what it was. Green Bay wasn't going to win that game. there's a difference when you trot out the Browns and, the teams that they were playing. It's a whole other animal when you bring out Carolina in that defense. And Aaron Rodgers still doesn't have the pieces around him. So, and that broken collarbone was somewhere in the back of his mind. But I don't want to talk. Yeah. And you know what? I don't want to talk about this anymore because there's something else going on that I want to talk about. And that is the Los Angeles Rams. So.
Well, wait, hold on. Give me 2 more minutes.
What the frig?
Really quick. Jacksonville just scored again. The Rams just scored again via Todd Gurley. And Robbie Gould, since we've been on the phone, has kicked 4 field goals.
Yeah, okay.
Take it away.
Okay, yeah. Take it away. Okay. Let's talk about.
Hold on. No, I'm kidding.
I'm going to stab you in the throat with a soldering iron, just so you know. All right. So I want to talk about this because I've been telling you that the 12th man, to me, brings about as much fear in my heart as watching the movie Chucky when I was a kid. Now, if you don't know, I will explain that analogy. I laughed the first time I saw Chucky when I was a child. I thought it was the most hilarious thing I ever saw. It was a talking doll trying to kill people. It was the most ridiculous thing I ever heard of. I wasn't afraid of it. I wanted a Chucky doll for Christmas because I thought it was hilarious. Okay? Keep that in mind. That's the 12th man for me. It is a propped up, fake situation. It is no louder in Seattle than it was in the Trans World Dome. And I've said it, and I've said it, and I've said it, and I'll say it again. In 2015, the year the Seahawks went to the Super Bowl, right? Am I correct? Eric, that's the year they played New England, right?
Correct.
Okay. That year, the 12th man in all of its full throat force had 5 less false starts than the Trans World Dome had. I'm sorry. If your barometer for a great crowd is difficulty to hear, and you don't create as many false starts as a stadium that's a third of the way filled, you're a joke. You're laughable. You are Chucky from the movie. You are the most ridiculous propped up propaganda bullcrap I've ever heard. And the Rams went into Seattle with no fear. It's exactly like I told you, Eric. I told you, our offensive line is a push. Okay? I actually think they're better, but they're a push. And I don't have it with me, but let me just throw this out there. Jamon Brown, Havenstein, Sullivan, Whitworth, Saffold. They dominated the Seattle Seahawks from the moment the gun sounded until the game was over. I saw Brown make 2 downfield blocks, one on a linebacker, and then come off and hit a safety on one of Todd Gurley's runs. I saw Whitworth pancake Earl Thomas when he was going out there to run block on Todd Gurley's touchdown run that went 50-something yards. The man, not Earl Thomas, I'm sorry, Wagner. Not Wagner. I was right on the touchdown, but not the 54-yard run, the goal line run where he went untouched. I saw those 5 guys right there, they set the tone. They set the tone. And if the Rams' offensive line is going to block like this the rest of the year, we ain't losing to nobody. We ain't losing to no one. So the Rams' offensive line was clearly better. We said push. The Rams' receivers were clearly better than Seattle's secondary currently, and that was shown out. Every time they threw the ball, they were either open or made the play. And then Todd Gurley against their linebackers. It wasn't even close. It wasn't even close. And then we go to the flip side. We go to the defense. There was nowhere on that field Seattle had an advantage. So I'm dying before this game starts. I'm dying because I'm wondering how exactly are we supposed to lose? I get it. This is why people pick Seattle, Eric. Are you ready? Because the Seahawks have had the division for so many years. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. So you don't need to have players to beat another team? You just have to have history? Because if that's the case, the Rams never would have lost the NFC West after the run they had in the 70s. I'm sorry. I thought you had to play a football game. Yeah, I told you. Russell Wilson doesn't perform well against the Rams. He doesn't. I told you that the Rams were better in every single aspect, and I said they'd double them up. Now, I didn't expect 42-7, but I'll tell you what, I loved every friggin' minute of it. And if they could have put a 50-burger on the board, I would have loved it. But I don't view this win as the staple win that makes everybody – it is the staple win that makes everybody believe in the Rams. You know I've been talking this team up since we beat New Orleans. You said you wouldn't doubt the Rams after they beat New Orleans, but you still have. You doubted them against Philly, and you doubted them against Seattle. And the Philly game was stolen from us. I will stand by that till my grave. Now, when I look at this game, and I'm going to let you say your piece in a minute, but when I look at this game and I see that Jared Goff leads the league in third down conversions, Todd Gurley is number 2 in the league in all-purpose yards, Farrell Cooper leads the league in kick returns, special teams, that's another thing we had a complete advantage in, and our special teams was annihilating them all day long, right? We've got 2 receivers with around 50 receptions. Tyler Higbee's turning into one a hell of a run-blocking tight end, as well as a pass catcher when they get him the ball. This team is getting stronger. Now, we lost Greg Zuerlein. If you guys didn't hear today, he went on IR with a back injury. Screws me in my fantasy league. Hopefully I can, not have a kicker and still win. How funny would that be, Eric? But, my kicker in the championship game is out. And I got no money to replace him. So I'm going with Zuerlein, even though he ain't playing. But that does hurt. And if it comes down to a field goal, we really need to use this kicker as much as we can the next 2 weeks and find out what the kid's got. Because that's going to hurt. But we still have Hecker. We still have that defense. And I'm sorry, Eric, but this team is getting better and better and better. There's another element I want to talk about, but I want to let you kind of take it over from here as far as your reflection on the game. Because you thought this was going to be a closer game than I said, and I told you it was going to be blowout city. So what did you pull from this game as an outsider who's also an insider?
Well, just the way Todd Gurley was able to basically make Seattle's defense his five-letter swear word. He was just running into them, over them, through them, and every time I seemed to look up, he was scoring a touchdown. This is the type of listen. The Rams were ticked. The Rams were ticked that they lost the game to Seattle in LA. The way they lost it. Okay, no excuses. They turned the ball over at inopportune times, and they wanted to make a statement. And they wanted to show the football world, guess what? We're serious. And the Rams are getting the pub that they are serious. Mm-hmm. Listen, Gurley runs the way that we know he can run. The team is a dangerous team. They don't have to rely on Goff to throw for 300 yards. This performance vaulted Todd Gurley into a very close MVP discussion. Now they say it's Brady and then everybody else. I don't buy it. I don't buy it one bit. I still think people are going to look at Wentz, even though he's going to miss the last 3 games of the season. Gurley's running really well. I still think the dark horse MVP is Mark Ingram. Kareem Hunt's starting to come back, so you can throw him into the discussion. And Le'Veon Bell is still, that huge workhorse that he is, that he could even take it. And I think the injury to Antonio Brown, which he's out for the rest of the year, is going to hurt him in the MVP voting as well. So I think there's at least 5 to 7 legit candidates. But when people say it's Brady and everybody else, I don't buy it. I don't buy it.
Yeah, me neither.
And I'll tell you what, it's only going to go to Brady because of 3 reasons. East Coast bias. He's 4 years old, and the Patriots, their record. That is the only reason why he's going to get it. Do I think he's putting up MVP numbers? Well, it depends on who you ask. Okay, because he doesn't have that many interceptions. He's got 4 or 5 interceptions all year so far. That's crazy for him. Okay, but Gurley's doing it against, in my opinion, tougher competition.
Yeah.
And he's got, if Seattle's on, they got a good D. If the Cardinals are on, and again, this is all dependent upon injuries. If Seattle has no injuries, Gurley has a tough time. If the Cardinals don't have any injuries, that defense can be rough on him. And San Francisco's defense, isn't a cakewalk either. And then you have the other teams that they played throughout the year. Sure, they played Jacksonville, so it's going to be tough against them. I'm sure they played, XYZ teams as well, who can or can't stop the run. But, that's here to the point here and there. But Gurley's in that MVP discussion. He's right alongside Brady. And if he has another 2 big weeks in him, because who knows if the Patriots are going to rest guys, but Gurley can snag it from him. And the way he's a man-possessed running the ball right now, and that's exactly what the Rams need. For the Rams to, in my opinion, to be successful, and I think it's going to be hard for them because I got the standings up right in front of me. The Rams are the 3rd seed, currently. So basically, they would need to win 2 games, and Minnesota would have to lose 2 games in order for them to get over the bye week. And I'm not so sure it's going to happen, just because they don't hold tiebreaker. But in week 17, there's always that chance that if the Rams don't use Gurley as much, that they could save them for that playoff game. And you could let him run ragged against the Falcons. He would run ragged against the Falcons if that's who they end up playing. He would run ragged against the Lions. Okay? So, Gurley is set up to where he is going to carry the Rams to a win or 2 in the playoffs. And what he showed against the Seahawks, it might as well have been Gurley versus the 11 Seahawk defenders. That's what I got out of that. Is that the Seahawks were so disinterested that their fans were leaving by halftime, if not sooner. And it sounded like a program crowd, at the end. So, take it with what you will, but LA went into what many people say is a tough place to play. But they not only went in there in the regular season, but they went in there in December.
Mm-hmm.
And took over that stadium and said, you know what?
Not today. Yeah.
And the Cardinals aren't getting any better. They're getting older, so they're going to be in a rebuild mode.
Mm-hmm.
The Seahawks have a lot of financial questions to answer this offseason. Who stays, who goes. So they may be on the downturn. The only thing that you have to worry about is let's solidify some positions on both offense, defense, and special teams. And then, hey, let's keep an eye out behind our shoulder for Mr. Garoppolo and those 49ers because the way they've been playing, and they got a tough matchup coming up, week 16.
Mm-hmm.
But, if they found their quarterback and they can put the pieces around him, you could be an old 80s battle again.
It could be. It's going to take a couple years for the Niners to build around Garoppolo, though. It's not going to be one draft class. And it's going to take that draft class a couple of years in the next 2 anyway. So I'm expecting that this will be the Rams division for at least 3 to 4 years. Because I do think Seattle's going to dismantle. I think Arizona's gotten old and they need to dismantle. But it's now up to see what the Rams do here. Look, I actually think it's going to be Dallas with the 6th seed, not Atlanta. I think Atlanta's going to lose to New Orleans this weekend, and I think they're going to lose to Carolina. And I think the Cowboys are going to win out, and they're going to get in. So they play Seattle this week at home. Ezekiel Elliott's back. So essentially that means the Rams get Dallas in L.A. How fitting. And then they would win and go to Minnesota. Now, it's the other thing I want to talk about. I pulled something from this game. This was the second time the Rams saw Seattle. It was the first time they saw Seattle in Seattle under this new head coach. Coming off of a loss the last time they played him, this coach is phenomenal at utilizing exactly what not utilizing, but exposing exactly what the weakness is in the other team. With New Orleans, you're missing your corners. Jared Goff, have a career day. Seattle, your linebackers are busted up and your secondary's weak. Go nuts. And that's what they did. And I'm curious to see, for me, this gives me optimism moving forward because the Rams are going to go into Minnesota, a game which they were a fumble away at the 1-yard line from taking a 14-7 lead in the fourth quarter, which could have dramatically changed the outcome of that game. Having already seen them once, having had the experience in that building already once, I think it's going to be a tough road to hoe for Minnesota to beat that team twice. Because to win on the road, you got to bring defense and a running game. To win outdoors, you got to bring those same two elements. Now, I'll go a step further. To win on the road, you need consistent quarterback play on third down. You need to have good defense, and you need to have a strong a balanced offense. To win in the cold, you need to bring your running game and your defense. The Rams can do both of those things. To beat New England, you need pressure up the middle. You need to win the third phase of the game, which is special teams. And you need to be able to hold your own on offense. The Rams can do all three. So, I look at the field, and I'm thinking the Rams might be the one team no one wants to play. Now, I'm going to sound crazy, and I'm aware of that. But I actually think if you're going to get this team this year in the playoffs, it's going to be at home in the first playoff game when the moment's really big. If they get out of that game with a win and they end up having to go on the road, I don't like the Eagles, the Saints, the Panthers, the Falcons, the Patriots, the Steelers, the Jaguars, the Ravens, or whoever else is in that AFC field's chances against the Rams, if they can get out of the wild card round unscathed. Your take.
Yeah, I think the Cowboys are the one team that may give the Rams fits. I know what you did to them before in the regular season, okay? But you also have a fresher Ezekiel Elliott, if it is the Cowboys that you proclaim to be. They got to leap over the Lions, and the Lions have Green Bay, and who do they have? They just played Bears. They got the Bengals and Packers to close out the season. So it's gonna be interesting to see the way the season goes. Who is in that won't be in, who is not in that will get in. And the Rams have shown that they can win at home, they can win on the road, they can win on a different continent, that they can win wherever the ball is that they're playing.
Mm-hmm.
And that makes them a dangerous team. It's just a matter of will they make those adjustments, just not against their division opponents, but against the Eagles, against the Vikings that they lost to. Are they going to fall into the same doing the same thing against the Saints, but maybe the Saints do something different? You just never know. And I don't think that's going to be the case because McVay has shown that you can make adjustments.
Yeah.
Some things better than others. I know a lot of people are disappointed, the way he coached the Vikings the game against the Vikings, I should say. And it wasn't his fault against the Eagles. We all know that. But, how is he gonna be come playoff time? Because he's never been there, but for a lot of the season, the Rams haven't been where a lot of people expect them to be.
Well, he's been there as a coordinator. He was there with the Vikings. He was there with the Redskins.
Oh yeah, it's different being a coordinator than being a head coach.
Sure.
With a coordinator, you're not as highly scrutinized as you are in the head coach.
Oh yeah. Well, there's no question on that. All right. Well, let's do this. we kind of already touched on the MVP, and I agree. Todd Gurley has leaped in front of that conversation into the race. And I think how he plays at Tennessee and how he plays against the 49ers, I think the Rams need to finish 12-4 for him to have a real shot at winning it. He needs to get another – he's at 1,100 yards now. I would say he needs to get at least another 300 yards rushing and another 180 yards receiving. That would put him at 2,000 all-purpose yards, or well over 2,000. I would put him at 14.
Well, the way the Titans ship has been seeking and be picking against them, I don't think you'll have a problem.
No, that's true. But he needs to be around 2,500 yards all-purpose yards in order to really have a legitimate opportunity at the MVP. Because unfortunately, I agree with Todd Gurley in this case. It is probably going to go to a quarterback because that's what the award has turned into.
Right.
Because the people that vote are lazy and uneducated twits, and they have no real journalistic ability because all they do is box score, look at, and watch the games in the morning and then go, okay, did my job. I'm an expert. And then they turn around and make the most ignorant statements you could possibly hear. Or, in the case of Heath Evans, don't have to hear anymore. I will say that the Good Morning Football crew I really like. All of them on that show. From the gal all the way around the table. They're just really good at just covering football. Like, that's the way football's supposed to be covered. It really does remind me of the way they used to cover it in the 80s and 90s. And, you know, like with the old CBS show, or was it CBS? When Brett Musburger was running the camp. It really does remind me a lot of that, which is good. It kind of gives me my, okay, there are sane people still doing this. But I wanna ask you a question. First, the conference championship game in both the NFC and AFC that you think is going to happen. That's the first segment, and then I have a special segment after that. So give me your, I know for sure, or I'm pretty sure this is going to be the AFC championship game. Go.
What we would like to see, or what we think it will be?
What you think it will be.
What I think it will be?
Mm-hmm.
I'll start with NFC. What I'd like to see is completely different than what I think it would be.
Okay.
So I'm gonna give you two answers. What I'd like to see.
No. We're gonna do what you like to see later. What do you think it's gonna be and why?
Okay. The AFC. Man, this is tough. Part of me thinks you're just going to see a rematch of the Patriots here at the end of last week.
Yeah.
I really do. Okay. I just think that with a possible three new teams who are new to the playoffs in the AFC, and I think the Chiefs are completely different now. I know they played the last 2 weeks, but they're completely different now than when they played New England in week 1.
Oh, yeah.
And I think New England's different than when they played in week 1 as well. So that's why I think it's New England-Pittsburgh.
Okay. I actually think it's going to be New England and Jacksonville. Because I do think Jacksonville is capable of going into Pittsburgh and winning. They've already proven that. And they seem to have the answers at corner. And they definitely have the ability to put pressure on Big Ben. The only X factor there for me is Le'Veon Bell. And the running game for Jacksonville has to get going. But Blake Bortles has been really good the last few weeks. And if he has to win a game with his arm, he's showing he's getting there. I've told you all year long, I've not been big on Pittsburgh. They have been a paper mache of a football team who's just benefited from woeful matchups. And Jacksonville's kind of the one team that really punched them in the mouth and knocked all their teeth out. So, part of me really believes it can be Jacksonville. But ultimately, between those two, New England goes to the Super Bowl. I have no doubt New England will beat Jacksonville and go on. Who do you think wins, New England or Pittsburgh?
New England.
Okay. What about the NFC?
NFC. Anthony, I really think it's going to happen. I really think we're going to have our first home host Super Bowl team.
Okay.
So the NFC Championship game is going to be Rams and Vikings.
Okay, so just so you know, the only way that happens is if Minnesota gets the 1 seed.
No. Well, yeah, I guess. Which is still possible.
Right. I'm gonna play the odds that the top 3 are gonna stay where they are. I can't get out of my head what the Rams did to Seattle after seeing them already once and struggling with them big time. Can't believe I'm going to say this. It's probably going to be the kiss of death. I think it's going to be the Rams and Eagles. I do. I think it's going to be the Rams at Philly. Who do you got winning, Rams or Vikings?
Vikings.
I got the Rams winning. Now, let me tell you what I'd like to see in the NFC before you're like, oh, you're crazy. I'd love to see either the Rams against the Vikings, but to be honest with you, that means the Rams have to go to Minnesota, and that means someone has to slip up. Vikings or Eagles, and I don't see that happening. Or Rams and Eagles. So I don't see that being a possibility. So I really want to see the Saints and Rams because that means the Rams are home in the NFC Championship game at the LA Coliseum against the Saints. And if they do play Atlanta, that would be really cool because the 2 former NFC West teams that they've lost to in the postseason, they would have then beaten because obviously I think the Rams then would go to the Super Bowl in that scenario. But because I really don't want to have to go to Philly. But I think it could. I would like to see the Rams and Saints. But I don't know, man.
I would like to see the Rams hosting the Panthers.
That would be fun. That would be a fun game.
I think the Panthers have a legit defense that could give the Rams offense fits. Obviously, I think the Vikings obviously still have that defense that could do that, but outside of them, I just like the way they've been playing. They've been able to score points. We're kind of questioning them. I was going to say worried, but I don't think that was the case because we're neither a fan of either team. But I'm sorry, we're not worried. We're not a fan of the Panthers, but it was basically questioning where they were if they belonged in the playoff talk earlier. Was Cam healthy? How are they going to survive without Benjamin? They've actually taken off a bit better without Benjamin.
Well, they were the year they went to the Super Bowl. The same thing happened the year they went to the Super Bowl. So that doesn't surprise me. I actually think the Rams and Panthers could happen. Because if Carolina beats New Orleans, then they go to Philly. And they can beat Philly.
In case our listeners haven't heard, we touched on it last week, where basically if somebody accuses you of sexual assault, you lose your job, bad things happen, like people start talking about you, things that you don't want to have happen start happening. Well, it happened to Panthers owner, was it Jerry Richardson?
Yep.
Okay. Happened to him, used derogatory comments. You're not supposed to use that in the workplace. Everybody knows that. Okay? Because of what eventually can happen to you. If somebody takes it the wrong way, they go and say something to somebody and spreads like wildfire.
Yeah.
But fitting for the Panthers is that if they were to get that far, he has already said that he would sell the team at the end of the 2017 football season, and he bought the team for $206 million, and their estimated value is currently $2.5 billion. Not bad for an 81-year-old who's about ready to sail off into the sunset.
Yeah, no kidding, right?
But how fitting would it be for the Panthers to get that far, maybe even a step further, for their owner who is going to sell the team?
Yeah. Be interesting. Really quick, my AFC Championship game that I'd like to see. I'd like to see something different. Kansas City, Jacksonville would be fun. I'd like to see Kansas City win it. I'd like to see the Chiefs back in the Super Bowl. But what about you? What championship game do you?
I was going to say Kansas City, Jacksonville, as well. I like actually to see Jacksonville, that defense, go to the Super Bowl. See what they could do against high-flying Minnesota offense, Rams offense, or Phillies offense, or Philly offense. I just think it would be a really entertaining Super Bowl with two teams who haven't been there in a long time. Part of me, this isn't part of who I want to see in the AFC Championship game, but I hope the Bills make it. They have a tough game coming up Week 16. So I think they get knocked out, but it'd be nice if they could finally end their drought.
Yeah, get in the playoffs. Well, they've had a hell of a year nonetheless. And
right.
Just for the record, Jacksonville's never been to the Super Bowl, so.
Right.
But the Rams, Eagles, Vikings, they all haven't been there in a while. All right, well, that's pretty much a wrap. Believe me, guys, I am so happy right now that we took care of business, and there's no better feeling than to sit here and say, I told you it was going to be a blowout. I said it. I said they were going to double them up. They mollywopped them all over the floor. They opened up the entire can of whip butt and just completely steamrolled Seattle right out of their own building. And watching those fans leave in the middle of the game, dude, that was Christmas. That was Christmas a few weeks early. So, yeah, it's a good day to be a Ram fan. One more win, and I called it division champions. Remember, I said it. Eric, did I not say it?
You said it.
I said it. So, one more win, and we got that accomplished, and we'll see how far we go. My attitude with the postseason, guys, is we're playing with house money. We get there, I'm happier than a pig in poo. And at that point, I don't care if we win the wild card game or if we win the Super Bowl, I'm going to be just as happy with the outcome of every game along the way, no matter what it is, because we finally got back to postseason play. And, man, it feels good. So, without further ado, anything you want to add, E?
Yeah, really quick. I want to go over a couple of games in Week 16. Well, there's really two. We'll post our picks to once the show is posted, so everybody can see it. But now this could be not really that big of a game. Might not even affect anybody except maybe me because where I live. Cleveland at Chicago. Hugh Jackson is in his third year of being a head coach. 2 with the Browns, 1 with the Raiders, back in 2011. Hugh Jackson finished the 2011 campaign going 1-4. He won that last game on Christmas Eve. The Browns went 1-15 last year. They won on Christmas Eve. The Browns play the Bears this year, Week 16. Guess what day?
Christmas Eve.
Christmas Eve. So could you actually go 3-0 on Christmas Eve?
Oh, maybe.
God, I hope not. But if the Bears win, okay, San Francisco's got a tough game against Jacksonville, and they both are currently 4-10. The Browns hold the Texans draft pick, and they're 4-10. And so if the Bears beat the Browns, their current draft selection is number 4. If they beat the Browns, their projected draft selection is 7 or 8. So do you give the Browns a win?
No.
Or do you beat the Browns and watch the Browns hold the parade on January 6th?
No, you don't lose. You don't want to be the team that lost to Cleveland.
Because in week 17, Cleveland travels to Pittsburgh, and Pittsburgh's still trying to get that number 1 seed if New England to somehow lose.
You don't want to be the team to lose to Cleveland. You don't.
Right.
I want to talk real quick before we get to the Ram game. I want to talk about the game that I'm most excited to watch this week, Atlanta at New Orleans. A lot of you don't realize this was a pretty big rivalry. You know, when I was a kid growing up, the NFC West was really fun to watch because you had, the two Southern teams that couldn't stand each other in Atlanta and New Orleans. They both came in the league at the same time. They had this mediocrity battle for decades. And then Atlanta got good and New Orleans stayed crappy. And then New Orleans got good and Atlanta got crappy. And they were kind of good together for a brief period of time. And they both got crappy. And then eventually they went to the NFC South. But the NFC West was broken up really perfectly because you had those two as rivals and you had the Rams and 49ers as rivals. Now, Atlanta and the Rams and New Orleans, it wasn't a real rivalry. We just played them twice a year. And same for San Francisco with New Orleans and Atlanta. But those were real rivalry games, and I'm glad that this rivalry was kept intact because I think it's going to be a fun game to watch. I think Julio Jones is going to have a better game than he had the last time they played. But ultimately, I do think New Orleans is going to get the win at home with the Dome Patrol. I think New Orleans is going to shut down Devontae Freeman, and I think you're going to see those that two-headed running back monster just completely blow up the Atlanta defense. And I think there's a little bit of revenge on the mind for New Orleans as they approach this game. Do you agree with that, E? Do you agree with that?
Well, that loss is still fresh in their minds. They didn't play the most sound game against the Jets. They did what they needed to do to get by and win the game. It's the last home game of the season. You definitely know that they want to come out and make a statement in front of their home crowd, stay ahead of the Falcons in the playoff hunt because right now New Orleans is 10-4, the Falcons are 9-5.
Yeah.
If
well, Carolina's 10-4, right?
Well, no, Carolina's 10-4 as well. So, and Carolina plays home against Tampa. Mm-hmm. So, Carolina's already winning that game. So, the Saints are saying, you know what? The division is ours. We want this division. We want to host a playoff game. And even if they host a playoff game, it's most likely going to come down to the one team in their division.
Yeah.
So legitimately, okay, if you're New Orleans, okay, listen to this. So they beat the Panthers at home. They lost to the Falcons. They beat the Jets. They host the Falcons. Then they're at Tampa to finish out the year. And then they would most likely then everything held up, they would face Carolina if they won their last 2 games. So you're looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of your last 6 games, including the playoffs, being against the division opponent.
You want to hear something funny?
What's that?
In 1991, going into week 16, the New Orleans Saints were 10-4. The San Francisco 49ers were 10-4. And the Atlanta Falcons were 9-5. I'm sorry, they were 10-4. You had 3 teams at 10-4. Atlanta went into New Orleans. New Orleans beat Atlanta to go to 11-4. San Francisco lost, forget to who, to go 10-5. And then in week 6-17, the Falcons played the 49ers, much like Atlanta's going to Carolina. The Falcons beat the 49ers on a Hail Mary to go to 11-5. The Saints lost week 17, but they'd already wrapped up the division with the win the week before. So Atlanta went to New Orleans in the NFC wildcard game in 1991 after losing to New Orleans in New Orleans earlier. So,
Are you saying this was week 14 or 15?
This was week 16 in 91. So you're looking at this, and I'm going, this is like 91 all over again, except in the NFC South. I really do think.
Okay. The 49ers beat the Chiefs.
Yeah, to go
28-14.
So did that make them 10-5?
That made,
because they finished 10-6 in 91.
Right. Okay, so the 49ers, won their last 6 games that season.
Oh wow, I was way
They
off.
were 4-6. They won their last 6 games. They were 10-6.
Who did Atlanta play week 17?
Atlanta, week 17. They lost to Dallas 31-27.
That's right. Hail Mary at halftime. That was the game Emmitt Smith was pushed out of bounds and got stuck on the bench.
Who was pushed out of bounds?
Emmitt Smith was pushed out of bounds and got stuck under the bench.
There was no Hail Mary at halftime.
Are you sure? Look at the box score.
I am. They both scored 3 points in the second quarter.
What was the longest touchdown in that game?
Michael Irvin, 58-yard pass from, get this, Steve Berline.
Yeah.
That started the scoring, and then Michael Haynes, another name from the past, 67-yard pass from Chris Miller.
Wait, was that in the first quarter?
That was in the first quarter. Yeah, the first quarter was crazy. It was 21-14 after 1.
Yeah, I think maybe, if I remember correctly, I know Atlanta beat San Francisco twice that year with a Hail Mary. So that's where I'm getting the Hail Mary from. They beat the Niners with a Hail Mary. Go back to when Atlanta was at San Francisco, or were they home? They were home.
Okay, so
Home against San Francisco.
Okay. Well, they were at San Francisco week 7. They won 39-34. Then they won 17-14.
Yeah.
In week 10.
Both of them were Hail Marys. Look at the box scores.
I'm looking at the box scores right now. All right.
This is just for fun, guys. Sorry if you're bored.
Deion Sanders had a 100-yard kickoff return for a touchdown.
Yeah.
Not seeing any kind of Hail Marys at the end of each half.
Well,
Go to the other game.
Keep in mind, Eric, that the Patriots beat the Rams on a 30-yard Hail Mary. So it doesn't have to be like a 58-yard touchdown pass.
Right. Okay, well, there was no score in the first quarter. In the second quarter.
Fourth quarter, Eric. Fourth quarter.
Hold on. 49ers, 97-yard touchdown pass from Steve Young to John Taylor.
Yeah.
The Falcons tied it up in the fourth. Took the lead in the fourth, 10-7. John Taylor caught another pass. Steve Young must have gotten injured because Steve Bono came in.
Wow.
To take the lead 14-10. And it doesn't show like time or anything like this out here, but Michael Haynes had a 44-yard touchdown pass from
Chris Miller. Chris Miller.
Who?
Chris Miller.
No.
Was it Billy Joe Tolliver?
No. Billy Joe Tolliver.
Billy Joe Tolliver. I'm telling you, Eric, that was a Hail Mary because I remember the game break. Go to the 39-34 game. Final touchdown. Who was it and how many yards?
Give me a second here. Final touchdown was Steve Young's 7-yard rush, first score in the fourth quarter.
Really?
Yeah.
So it was a 17-14 game that was a Hail Mary. And that was in San Francisco or in Atlanta?
This one was in, I want to say Atlanta.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh no, sorry, this one was in San Francisco.
Yeah, see, the Atlanta one.
At the end of the last score, the second quarter was a 54-yard pass to John Taylor from Steve Young.
Yeah, that wasn't a Hail Mary. I remember the Hail Mary that beat the 49ers that year by Atlanta because it was a big story. Game broke all over the place. And my dad's like, oh, wow, 1983 all over again. I'm like, 1980 what? My dad's like, don't worry about it. And then I later found out what that meant with Billy White Shoes Johnson and his crazy heroics at the end of the game against the Niners. Anyway, little history lesson there. Sorry, guys. We kind of did a blast in the past. I do think Atlanta could beat Carolina to kind of, sneak in there. But I would love to see Atlanta versus New Orleans in the wild card round. But I don't foresee that happening. I think the Saints are going to beat the Falcons, 49ers, beat the Falcons this week. That game, I feel really confident that's going to be a really good game to watch, but I do ultimately think it's going to go their way. Look, we got to do it, E. We got to talk about our Rams, or my Rams. So we're going to talk about the Rams and the Titans. We talked about it needing to be the Todd Gurley show last week, and it was. I don't think it needs to be much of the same this week. I think the Rams' approach this week needs to be, how do you want to die this week? Choose your poison. Do you want to die with a bullet in the face, or do you want to die getting bludgeoned to death? Do you want to die by poison, or do you want to get your throat slit? How do you want to die? I'll help you out. I'm Italian. I'll provide you some cement shoes. You can go swimming with the fishes. It's your choice. You don't get a choice, right? That's what this really is. So, do you want the Rams to dink and doink you with the middle game, meaning Cooper Kupp, Tyler Higbee, Everett, Sammy Watkins, maybe Robert Woods on the outside? You want to get beat that way? You want to get beat with the screen game or the swing game? Or do you want to get beat to death by Todd Gurley? You choose. Oh, and by the way, if you do stop our offense, we'll probably block a couple of kicks and take those back for touchdowns. And we'll get a couple picks on defense and score that way. So, I don't see Tennessee winning this game. I don't see Tennessee winning this game. I do think that to me, this is the Rams' last chance to fix the run game, which has been the one thing they've had an issue with all year long on defense. They don't stop the Titans' running game this week, it's going to be a tough game. They'll win it, but it's going to be a tough game. I do think the Rams will stop the run this week. I do think the Rams will find a way to bottle up Mariota, and the Super Bowl 34 rematch goes the way Super Bowl 34 did, except in a much bigger fashion. I'm going to say the Rams win this game. And here's how I think it's going to break down. I think Pharoh Cooper is going to continue the field position game. There's no question the loss of Greg Zuerlein is going to hurt here, but we'll see what this new kicker can do. And because I don't know how the new kicker is going to do, I'm going to say he makes one of two, maybe two of three, or one of three, God forbid. But I'm going to say the Rams win this game 31-13. I think Todd Gurley has a big day. I think Goff has a good day. I think Watkins gets a big play in this game. I don't know if it's going to be a 60-yard touchdown or a 40-plus yard play, but Watkins is going to have a big play in this game. I'm calling it now. And look out for Cooper Kupp. I think Cooper Kupp is going to take he's probably going to go for over 100 yards on 5 receptions and a touchdown.
What if I told you I was done picking against the Titans?
You're an idiot. I'd say you've gotten too many people to call you from the land of Tennessee saying, we don't like you picking against us.
Yeah, okay, right? Yeah, well, I'm not picking Tennessee in this game, okay? There's no way. The way Tennessee is playing, they are looking like they just don't want to play any more football. I know they've been playing close games. They're close to playing out against San Francisco, but that if you watch that last drive of what Garoppolo did to that Titans defense, I have no doubt in my mind that the Rams are going to watch that, and they're going to exploit that all day long. You might say Cooper Kupp, you might say Sammy Watkins. Anthony, I'm telling you, Robert Woods is going to have an over 100-yard game in this game.
Look, Eric, I'm not going to be surprised if Watkins has his first 100-yard game, Kupp has a 100-yard game, and Robert Woods goes for over 100 yards, and Gurley. I think Jared Goff could put up his first 400-yard performance this week.
I mean, yeah, anything's possible. But McVay isn't that type of coach to run it up on a non-division type team.
I don't think it'll be running it up. I don't think it'll be running it up. That's why I said 31-13. I just think, he's going to take what's there. And I just think the passing game is going to, in big chunks, is going to be there. And I think the Rams are going to pick it apart.
But I also think that the Titans' offense, especially their run offense, will be able to somewhat, not the whole way, but somewhat control some of the tempo of the game with Mariota and Murray and Henry. But I also think that what you guys have to watch out for is Delaney Walker. I could see him having a big game over the middle.
Not against Ogletree.
But, Roman Ryan is their best cover corner. And I don't see him really having that great of a game. Because obviously he's going to be up on either Woods or Sammy Watkins. But, Goff's going to get his. You know that. I would also love for them to feed it to Gurley. Again, keep him hot. Because obviously they had another division game week 17 that you could either play in the half or whatnot, but rest him up a little bit for the playoffs. I think there's another game where you give him the rock as many times as he wants. Whether that's handing the ball off for screen passes doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But I like Robbie Woods to have a big game here in Tennessee. I don't foresee weather being too much of a factor. I mean, it might be cold or whatever, but it was 45 up in Seattle, so
and raining. And raining.
Yeah. Give me the Rams 31, and I was toying with 31-13 before you said it, so I'm going to go 31-20.
31-20. Keep in mind, Eric, Alec Ogletree shut down Graham. Alec Ogletree shut down the Giants tight end. Alec Ogletree has proven himself to be a very good tight end cover guy. I don't think Delaney Walker is going to get a lot of his this week. And 20 is a lot. I mean, so we'll see. But I could see this game being 17-13, I'll say 17-10 at halftime, and then the Rams pull away. But I think we both agree that this is the Rams' game to lose. I want to ask you one last question before we wrap this up. We talked about Jared Goff a lot at the bye week. And I said that Jared Goff was really going to blow the doors open the second half of the season. When you look at his statistics, would you agree that he's had his best performances in the second half? Or would you say it's been more of a consistent, steady Eddie all year long? Because I don't know if it's just the eye telling me that I'm right, or if it's the eye and the mind because the numbers are telling me it's right.
It's been consistent across the board. I mean, you can break it down and say, let me look at his complete stats and pinpoint everything that that you want to. Okay, actually, I have it right here.
Okay.
So he's got 195 more yards in the first half than in the second half. More completions and more attempts in the first half.
Really?
He's got a better completion percentage and
That's what it is.
Get this. Get this. He has 12 touchdowns in the first half, 12 touchdowns in the second half.
Wow. Well, he'll definitely end up with more touchdowns.
Hold on. 2 interceptions in the first half, 5 in the second half. And to me, I think those are mainly when, hold on, let me see here. Because it has by who they played. 2 interceptions versus Arizona. 1 interception versus New Orleans. 3 versus Seattle. And 1 versus Washington. So, as you can see, they're mainly in only a handful of games.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Other than that, he's been pretty clean. Passer rating, QB rating in the first half, 96.6. QB rating in the second half, 102.
Wow.
He is pretty much evenly split. Basically, what that tells me is that he's an all-around game guy. Okay? Especially when I see the touchdowns dead even in the first half and second half, and the QB rating only 6 points apart. He's also been sacked 12 times in each half.
Oh, no, Eric. I'm talking about half of the season.
Oh, half the season?
Yeah, from week 9. I'm sorry.
Okay, they also have that.
So from week 9 to now, has he not been better?
He has not been.
Really?
He has not been. Games 1 through 8. More completions, more attempts, 2,030 yards. Games 9 through 16. Well, 9 through 15, but 9 through 16. 1,473 yards. So if he has two 300-yard games, he's going to pass that 2,030 up.
Yeah.
Okay. Touchdowns 13 to 11, interceptions 4 to 3. QB rating 97.9 in the first half of the season, 100.2 in the second half of the season.
Wow.
Yeah. So to me, I mean, even if you break it down by month, the dude is consistent.
Yeah.
So, let me also put this on you. He has never thrown an interception on any other day of the week besides Sunday. So there you go. There's the other one.
Yeah.
But I just threw that in to be a smart guy.
You're a freaking jerkwad.
Right? So no, he's really been consistent. Before I even looked at this, if you would have asked me, I probably would have said second half of games and first half of the season.
All right. Well, I appreciate the input. Listen, I want to thank the subscribers out there again for subscribing. For I don't know who it was, but somebody commented on my it said I'm a white Stephen A. Smith.
That's funny.
I will take that as a tremendous compliment. Thank you. If only I was that good. So thank you for whoever said that. That was appropriately hilarious. So whether it's LT calling me Yoda or this guy calling me a white Stephen A. Smith, I thought that was pretty funny. Guys, you have to, and Eric, I need you to do this too. You have to go to Clash of the Horns and watch his last show that he does on the Rams-Seahawks game. It is phenomenal. And it is in depth, and the video, it's A quality from beginning to end. I really liked it. I like kind of the input that he gives in the game, in his input on it too, E. So I'd like you to kind of check that out. But if you guys haven't checked out Clash of the Horns show yet, you need to, because the dude is awesome. Don't forget to check out LT's show and tell people about my show. Let's try to get my subscribers up. I'm close to 1,000, but I'm not there yet. I'd like to get to 1,000 by the time I get to the 100th show. I think that would be pretty cool. So anyway, we appreciate you guys. We do this for you. And I am hoping that 2018 will provide more equipment to make this even better. From the bottom of my heart, thank you. I love you guys. Have a Merry Christmas, an absolute wonderful holiday season. Enjoy your families, kiss your children, and make sure, guys, you spend time with your kids. This is the best time of the year. I don't care if you're alone, that's fine. Go see family, go do something fun and productive, because this time of the year is about enjoying people, enjoying you, enjoying what time you do have. It's my favorite time of the year because if you go out, you'll notice people are smiling more. And maybe it's fake, maybe it's not, but for me it's genuine, and I wish everyone out there, from mine to you and yours, a very happy and Merry Christmas. Eric, would you like to add anything?
Yeah, I just want to say that also thank all of our subscribers, I should say. I have started to post some more on YouTube with the show as well. Try to interact with you guys a little bit more, try to explain myself and my thinking a little bit as far as why I pick games the way I do, or why I give the analysis why I do. And I had a decent conversation with and I forget the person's name. We're going back and forth a little bit. Nothing like cutthroat or anything like that, but it was like, I like to look at past stats and still think that there's always going to be a correlation, and but it's a new Rams regime, so that psychological thinking might not apply to this team type of thing, and I mentioned that. So I want to do my best to interact with you guys more. I appreciate any and all feedback as well to make myself better in this, to make it more enjoyable for you guys to listen to. So I want to say thank you guys for always tuning in. We're gonna cover the topics as they come up, and I know with the holidays here that we're only doing one show each, so we can not take away from our family time as well. But I know as soon as New Year's is passed, we're gonna go and hit the ground running, and we're looking forward to hitting that 100 show mark.
Yeah.
But I just want to wish all of our subscribers and Anthony, you, Merry Christmas, and we'll be back before New Year's as well to talk about previous week's games and the upcoming games as well. But just want to wish everybody Merry Christmas. Hope everybody has safe travels. That kids are spoiled. It's a good time of year to see the smiles on their faces, because that's basically what it's all about.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And let's end on a real positive note here for Ram fans out there in the Ramily. Rams clinched the playoffs with a victory over Tennessee, because they would also clinch the division. If the Rams lose to Tennessee, but the Seahawks lose to Dallas, the Rams still clinch the division and would clinch a playoff spot. So hopefully we get a Christmas gift this week, and we don't have to wait another week. That's it. So that's from us and yours, and Eric, to your family too. Also, a very Merry Christmas and happy.
And to your family as well.
I appreciate that. And go Rams!